Kantara movie has created a stir in the world of cinema recently. It's a thrilling drama that has impressed even the toughest critics. The movie showcases captivating Indian culture. The story takes place in 1847 and revolves around a king who seems to have everything, a prosperous kingdom and loyal subjects. However, he constantly feels troubled because he lacks inner peace. In his search for inner peace, the king embarks on a spiritual journey alone, following the advice of a priest. Along the way, he encounters various saints, but doesn't find the fulfillment he desires. During this journey, he hears a mysterious voice while exploring the forests. Intrigued, he follows the voice and discovers a captivating stone. The stone and the voice have such a profound effect on him that he finally attains inner peace. He becomes so enamored with the stone that he wants to take it with him. At that moment, the villagers arrive and confront the king. They refuse to let their divine demigod, named Panjurli Deva, be taken away. It's important to note that Deva is the local deity of that village. Suddenly, the spirit of Deva possesses a man from the village and speaks to the king. The spirit questions what would happen to the villagers if Deva were taken away and who would protect them. To take Deva with him, the king is asked to provide land for the villagers within the range where his screams can be heard. Furthermore, Deva warns that anyone who makes a mistake will face consequences. Additionally, if someone tries to reclaim the land, Panjurli himself may not take action, but his companion Guliga will surely seek revenge. Guliga is another demigod similar to Deva. The king agrees to these conditions and, in return, gives land to the villagers. He also establishes an idol of Deva in his palace and starts worshipping him. As a result, the king finds spiritual peace and begins to live happily. To understand the story better, let's first learn about the culture in Karnataka, India. Even today, people in Karnataka worship deities because they believe these deities protect them in every situation. This worship tradition is called Buddha Kola. It is crucial to perform the deity worship correctly because making a mistake can have severe consequences. During these rituals, it is believed that the deity enters the performer and blesses everyone. This tradition is passed down within the same family from one generation to the next. Now, let's dive into the story. The story begins in 1970, where a man and his son named Shiva perform Buddha Kola in a village. At the same time, one of the descendants of the village's king arrives and claims ownership of the villagers' land. During this encounter, the spirit of a deity enters Shiva's father and reveals that the land was given to the villagers for their lineage's peace. If the land is taken back, their peace will be destroyed because Guliga will take revenge. However, the descendant, known as the landlord, doesn't believe in the deity and threatens to go to court to reclaim the land. He insults Shiva's father, saying he is merely a performer, not a deity. Furious at this response, the deity warns the landlord that the court won't decide the matter. Instead, it will be settled on the court steps itself. The deity challenges the landlord by saying, "Is your faith in me being a performer or a god? If I ever reveal myself to you, consider me a performer, otherwise a deity." Upon hearing this, Shiva's father quickly flees into the jungle, with everyone chasing after him. However, he vanishes and is never seen again. As for the landlord, he meets a terrible fate on the court steps, breaking his arrogance. Now scene shifts to year 1990. Devendra, the son of the deceased landlord from 1970, organizes a buffalo race in the village. Shiva has grown up by this time and also participates in the race. Despite Shiva's outstanding performance, the Devendra's men cheat and ensure their buffalo wins. This causes an argument between Shiva and the buffalo owner, Dharma. When the landlord learns about the dispute, he awards the medal to Shiva and scolds Dharma, his own man, for being dishonest. Friends, let me introduce you to some characters that will help you better understand the story. Firstly, there is Shiva, whose father disappeared in the jungle 20 years ago while performing Buddha Kola. According to tradition, Shiva should be the one performing Buddha Kola, but his brother, Garuva, took on the role because Shiva is alcoholic and jobless. This often angers Shiva's mother. Additionally, in the village, there is a girl named Leela who is preparing for a job as a forest guard. She is also Shiva's girlfriend. The village has assigned an officer named Murli for forest safety. Now, let's delve into the story. In the story, it is revealed that Shiva and his friends work for the same landlord, Devendra, who is highly impressed by Shiva. Devendra often rewards Shiva with money and alcohol in exchange for his work. On the other hand, after Inspector Murley arrives in the village, conflicts arise as he clashes with the villagers for stopping them from cutting trees. This prompts Shiva to explain to Inspector Murley that they have been living in this jungle for years, and it is their only means of livelihood. The truth is, Inspector Murley's sole objective is to protect the jungle, which leads to several conflicts between him and Shiva. The situation worsens when Inspector Murley designates the area as a reserved forest, making them adversaries. As the story progresses, Shiva has recurring dreams of his father and the deity Giliga, which startles him. One day, he encounters a unique pig in the jungle, adorned with ornaments resembling a god. Subsequently, following Leela's father's suggestion, Shiva talks to Devendra and secures a job for Leela in the forest department. Her training as a forest guard is swiftly completed and she is part of Murley's team. On the day Leela begins her role as a forest guard, Inspector Murley arrives in the village based on a government order. Meanwhile, Shiva confronts Inspector Murley, resulting in the police arresting Shiva and demarcating the boundaries of the forest area, endangering the village's land. This incident causes great distress among the villagers, and they direct their anger towards Leela. Despite her reluctance, Leela is compelled to support the forest department as it is now her duty. Upon learning about the situation, the landlord arrives with a lawyer and assures the villagers that he will arrange all the necessary documents for them, granting them permanent ownership of the land. He explains that the legal process will be handled by the lawyer, which will effectively resolve their problem. In order to secure their rights, the landlord requests each villager to provide their thumb impression on the legal document, considering that everyone in the village is illiterate. Meanwhile, Inspector Murley remains dedicated to completing his duties while Shiva and his friends engage in tree-cutting activities. Their intention is to implicate Murley for neglecting his responsibilities towards protecting the jungle, potentially leading to his transfer. Shiva frequently finds himself involved in arguments with Devendra's associates, yet Devendra never displays anger towards him. In fact, Devendra holds a great deal of trust in Shiva. Additionally, Devendra has an extramarital affair, and whenever he meets his lover at night, he brings Shiva along as a guard. One night, while Shiva and his friends are cutting trees, Devendra's associate, Dharma, catches them in the act. Dharma promptly informs Inspector Murley about the situation, as Murley aims to apprehend Shiva red-handed. Consequently, Murley rushes to the location. However, upon receiving the news, Shiva abandons the partially cut tree and flees with his friends. The tree collapses onto a police car, injuring few guards. Following this incident, Shiva is charged with attempted murder, and the police commence a widespread search for him and his friends. As a result, Shiva and his companions take refuge in the jungle, cautiously venturing into the village to avoid the authorities. Meanwhile, during a meeting with Leela, Inspector Murley apprehends Shiva and his friends, leading to their imprisonment. On the same night, Shiva's brother, Garuva, contacts Devendra, seeking his assistance in rescuing Shiva based on Diva's message received in his dream. Devendra assures Garuva that he will resolve the situation. Hence, while Shiva remains in jail, Inspector Murley continues his efforts to declare the jungle as a reserved forest. One day, Devendra was on his way somewhere when he spotted Garuva. He extended an invitation to Garuva to join him in the car, and they embarked on a journey together. At that moment, a blacksmith from the village noticed Garuva seated in the car. With Garuva by his side, Devendra boldly claimed that all the land belonged to his ancestors. He offered Garuva 5 acres of land separately if he agreed, but on the condition that during the Buddha Kola performance at the festival, Garuva would publicly announce the return of all the land to Devendra, persuading the villagers to follow the divine order. Garuva, however, refused to comply. As a result, Devendra, assisted by Dharma, took matters into his own hands. They killed Garuva and disposed of his body in the same location where the Buddha Kola was traditionally performed. This act shattered the faith of the villagers when they discovered Garuva's lifeless body. That very night, Garuva appeared in Shiva's dream as a deity, weeping loudly. Throughout the entire movie, deities frequently appeared in Shiva's dreams. The following morning, Devendra informed the villagers that he would ensure the capture of Guruva's murderers. Meanwhile, Inspector Murli, upon learning of Devendra's deceitful transfer of all the land to his name, decided to assist the villagers. The story reveals that Inspector Murli was not a malicious person, rather, he sought to safeguard the forest. Unfortunately, one of his constables divulged everything to Devendra. Consequently, Devendra arranged for Shiva's release from jail to eliminate Murli, as he knew that Shiva and Murli were enemies. This is where a significant secret unfolds in the story. Devendra had been feigning goodness in order to avenge his father's death and claim the ancestral land. When Shiva is released from jail, Devendra tricked him that Inspector Murli was the one who murdered Guruva. Hearing this news, Shiva becomes furious and sets off to kill Murli with his sword. On his way, he encounters the same blacksmith who had witnessed Guruva sitting in Devendra's car. The blacksmith informs Shiva that Guruva had gone with Devendra in the car, but Devendra had returned alone. Soon after, Guruva's lifeless body was discovered, indicating that Devendra was the one responsible for Guruva's murder. Shiva begins to grasp the truth. However, just then, Devendra's men arrive at the scene with Dharma, resulting in a fight between Dharma and Shiva due to their strained relationship. Despite the odds, Shiva triumphs over everyone and confronts Devendra at his house. Afterward, Shiva returning to village, where he has a vision of a deity along the way and falls. He then lights a torch and ventures into the forest, following the voice of the deity, leading him to the same location where his father vanished 20 years ago. It appears that Daiva is guiding him. Subsequently, he arrives at the village and discloses the truth about Devendra to everyone. Inspector Murli is also present, enlightening the villagers about Devendra's deceptive acquisition of the land. However, if the forest is declared a reserve, Devendra will no longer have ownership of the land. To secure the villagers' right to stay there, they can file a petition in the court. This compels Devendra to orchestrate an attack on the village, accompanied by his henchmen. The assault ensues, leading to a fierce confrontation in which Inspector Murli, Shiva, and the villagers unite. Casualties occur on both sides, but Devendra derives pleasure from it all. There is a pivotal scene where Devendra's most powerful associate brutally assaults Shiva, gripping him by the neck, seemingly killing him. At that moment, Gyuliga Daiva's powerful scream resonates, and Shiva rises to his feet. It becomes apparent that the deity has possessed Shiva, as he systematically eliminates Devendra's men with his supernatural abilities, captivating the audience with a remarkable and intense performance. Empowered, Shiva continues to vanquish the goons, incorporating the distinct style of Buddha Kola. Ultimately, Shiva beheads Devendra. The scene then transitions to a few months later, where Shiva now performs the Buddha Kola tradition in the presence of the entire village, including Inspector Murli. Villagers are taking blessings from him. Leela's pregnancy reveals that she carries Shiva's child. While engaging in the Buddha Kola ritual, Shiva, holding a torch resembling his father's, ventures into the forest, where he and his father appear before each other. Subsequently, both of them vanish, and Shiva never returns. In mid-credits, Shiva's son is shown grown up, with Shiva's friend narrating Shiva's story to him. This implies that in the future, Shiva's son will also partake in the Buddha Kola ritual, becoming a vessel for the deities. Kantara was the name of the forest. The movie concludes at this point. If you enjoyed the recap, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon.